Good evening, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I'm your Sensei Al Bob, and I want to give you a notice that this is a show of entertainment and self awareness, and it is for the mature at heart. So shush the children out, put them to bed, get yourself a nice libation, put your feet up, and enjoy. For I, your Sensei Al Bob, your griot, or storyteller, is here to tell a story. And so, war is never ending. Things are never as they should be. And whatever you're told is a lie. Don't believe anything I say. You need to step up to your consciousness's free will and understand things by overstanding them. You never want to have someone standing over you. No. When we focus on the past, when we continually try to revitalize, slice up our memories into something more palatable, where we pick and choose things that don't really matter, when we focus on something we can't change rather than focusing on the thing we can, rather than being responsible to our ability to co-create with love, using our consciousness's free will by being awake. That's what it's about. Where we are right now is in a dilemma because we are facing an opportunity to change. But we'd rather stay in war. We've been at war for thousands of years. Peace has never been part of our dialectic. It's always conflict. The friction should never be with another. It should be with our complacency. Anthony, Buddy, Boing, Inc. Direct personal experience. Yeah. Unwanted anchors, yes, sticking us in the same place, not being able to break free. Moon, it's good to see you. I'm glad you have arrived. I earlier this morning had a dream about, I woke up, it was one of those interesting dreams where you are conscious that you're dreaming and you can't tell whether it's real or a dream. And I woke up to a tremendous bright light. Where I sleep here in my little monk's cell, there's a big window, right? That big window right there. And see how dark it is? And it's that dark until 5:30ish, right? 5:45. And then it starts to get light. And that window faces west. Direct opposite is east. So the sun rises there, and there are mountains and so the sun has to get above the mountains. When it does, it lights up the tops of the trees, and then the sun travels down. But this morning, I woke with a gigantic bright light, like that bright, 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 that bright, 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 but I mean brighter than bright. And it was like a light switch, like bing, it was bright. It was like outside the window, shining in like a floodlight. And it was so bright that it started making me unable to see. So I was somewhat, not frightened, but because that kind of bright light I've only seen when I was 6 years old in the Nevada test grounds with my father watching an above ground nuclear test. And my father took me to that, and we were all lathered up, and we were a good 20 miles from where the test was, and we were in a parking lot, and the speaker came over, 15 seconds to detonation, everyone turn, your back to it, and we had these hoods, right? These coats with these big hoods, and we were all lathered up, and we had like, welder's goggles on. And I'm like this little peanut, and I'm wearing this big human, grown-up's coat and all lathered up. And when the blast came, the light was so bright, and we were facing a wall of a building, a concrete wall. And, they 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, detonation. Bang, this unbelievable light. And through the coat, you could feel this heat. And I was, we were 20 miles away. And this light came brighter than bright. And that's the kind of bright light that came through that window. And when I was standing in that parking lot, then the concussion, boom, this loud noise. And it kind of moved. My father, held me. And then he said, turn around. And I had the goggles, strapped to my head. He goes, look at your hand. And I looked at my hand, and the x-rays coming off of that mushroom cloud were so strong I could see the bones in my hand through the welding goggles. And, that's, my dad brought me, 6 years, 7 years old, however old I was, to see that. Because whenever he went to visit a station, hey, you want to go to Edwards? You want to go to, and that was like, I'm going to get on a military jet and fly there and see all this cool stuff. Sure, man. And he was, a man of authority, so, I could go play in the B-52, or, I sat in the seat of a hustler, and I was this little peanut of a kid. Anyway, that was the kind of light that came in my window. So I put my hand up in front, because I said, if I see x-rays, then it could be a nuclear explosion. But if the light was that bright and it was a nuclear explosion, we should have been dust by that time. So I put my hand up, and what went between my fingers but rainbows. And so I kind of got up, and everything was glowing gold, bright gold. And I walked out into, and if you go watch, it's better if you watch this morning's video, because it was, it was me experiencing it, so, it's more real. Anyway, the long of the short of it was I started hearing voices, and it said, everything's fine. Just keep moving forward, baby steps. Just keep moving forward. Don't let anything stop you or the cadre, right? Yep, you'll see and then remember, exactly. And that's where we are right now. We are in this very, like I keep talking about, the window of opportunity is open, right? And all of this stuff, the hidden hand and the powers that shouldn't be in the sock, global warming, weather, blah blah blah. No, I mean it's not our planet. It's happening across our solar system. It's happening across the galaxy and the universe. Things are changing. We are being energized. And those who move forward towards that change rather than get stuck into wanting everything to stay the same. I don't want anything to change. I don't want anything to change. That's when it's going to be tough. And when I keep talking about the alternative aesthetic, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about developing a platform that fear is the enemy and fear is the illusion. That's why it's so scary. Because in reality, that movie, Monsters Inc. Monsters aren't scary. They're just like you and me. They just look a little different. You know. So, this evening, I kind of wanted to pursue that this conversation of developing the alternative aesthetic, and also kind of we go into a meditative state, and I've been taking you into lots of worlds. I've been showing you how to remote view, how to see things, and go talk to things and be part of things. That is that change, right? Ugh. Oy, oy, oy. Let's see. Self deprogramming. Yep. That's why we meditate, why we focus our conscious mind. That usually is the blabbering monkey with our breath. Mhm. Consciousness and the requirements of that's the mover. Awesome, yes. We gotta remain ourselves from the matrix. And yet, we are all our relations. The concept that we're constantly given of the extraordinary individual. It's like we are the cadre, so we are part of this collective, you know. But we don't have to be the Borg. Star Trek, sci-fi is so great because it can deal with these existential thoughts in a way that we can look at them, right? And that's why I use the shamanic frame every time before I start this. I meditate and think and pray and write things down and think about stuff and find a title. And the title is talking about manipulation and how we're manipulated, how we're the powers that shouldn't be, the hidden hand, they're like this artificial parental, right? And they don't know any. I mean, like, people get upset with their parents because when they're a little child, their parents program them because their parents have been programmed. And then we, as little children, we view our parents as some kind of hero, and then we get disappointed, and we get upset that when we realize our parents are just human. Whereas if we were to, from the beginning, realize that our parents are just human, we'd cut them some slack, right? And we would get away from them as quickly as possible, not in a mean or harsh way, but we just would be ourselves and we would take the best from our parents, right? And that's why we have grandparents, because our grandparents have already kind of failed with our parents and they have no realized the mistakes. So when they start hanging out with you, they they have a perspective, they have an understanding, they kind of let it go. So, and that is, are the powers that shouldn't be are this, you know, oh, I can't even describe, a inappropriate parental motif, right? And we have to be individually responsible to our all our relations. And when in the olden days we were in clans and we were part of oh, not racial groups, but oh, and not religious groups either, but we were kind of in these communities, right? That weren't tribes, but they were communities, and there would be the religious and the people who fixed and made things, and the farmers and the warriors, and they all worked together, and they all did what they did best, and they collectively were a cadre, right? And they, in essence, not necessarily had a king or a leader. They would for specific things, but everyone had the authority to step up to lead by example. And that's when you look at indigenous groups, and there, there were cities of indigenous people in North America. Where St. Louis is, there was a city of over 3 million indigenous people before Christopher Columbus showed up. Down in Central America, the Maya, the Inca, they had these massive cities, and their technology was far ahead of where Europe's were like rolling around in squalor, while these guys were building pyramids, and tremendous cities and highways and waterways. And the technology of things, it's not technology. It is, and it's something above spirituality, because spirituality is too close to theology. And we have to, what Ink was saying about experience, you know, program, where did Ink say that? Yeah, there we go. Memories can be unwanted anchors. That's what Buddy says. Hello, everyone. That's a moon. Hello. Could have been. Let's see. Ink says, does that resonate with the crone? And it does. What I'm talking about resonates with the crone. And the crone, she was ageless. And, I'm just your sensei, Alba, She was a master, And I'm just here with the cadre, And I just lead by example. And I do my best. And you give me inspiration. And you stand up and step up through your example. And that's why we're a cadre. That's how it works. It's not leader, right? Moon says we have been programmed to fear for too long. We gotta shed fear. Yes, that is for sure. And the way to shed fear is with empathy. Empathy is the tool to cut fear out of our lives, because when we can feel what the other is feeling, we're not having to fear them. Donnie Trump is just a glorified TV reality, not even a host, just a character. He's a cartoon character. And the powers that, he was hired to fill this post to disable common sense. Huh? He goes on about building a wall and fearing the people. If you look at the statistics, today, before he went off to go golfing, he was going, people were telling him about the numbers. He said, your own government says there's less, crime, murder by, people of brown skin than white folk, it's not the immigrants you guys have to worry about. And the, you know, opiate, catastrophe is brought to us by big pharma, not guys bringing it over, the border. And yet, because we are so controlled by fear, because we cannot put ourselves in the other's shoes, we go along with this. And he says, what happens here is incidental. It's the personal longing, aesthetic that's casual. Consciousness and its requirement, that's the mover. And that requirement, what is the requirement? The requirement is to be awake so we can be empathetic, that we can care. We have to remove ourselves from the matrix. And the matrix is like an artifice of the edifice, right? So we have to, when we go from our library, right, from our subconscious mind to our superconscious mind, our sanctuary of our own choosing, we walk over the bridge of the id. How is it different for you, buddy? The other is the person right next to you, the guy on the bus, the person in the supermarket who's, online in front of you, the woman or guy who's putting the stuff in the bag, or at the cashier and having a bad day, so things are taking longer. That's the other, Your children, when they irritate you, that's the other. Your siblings, when you have an argument, that's the other. Consciousness brings about creation from unraveling, to lift the veil to the self is our lives. Entering and relating to this morphic field, to translate it without ego, is the key to aligning with the greater good. Exactamundi. Yep, both of those. Both what Ink, Moon, and Buddy are saying. Yep. Ride says, arrange relations in relation to your hopeful anticipation. Yep. And that's, hopeful anticipation. That's great, because most people have fearful expectations. We got to get rid of those fearful expectations and put in their place the hopeful anticipation. Uber Gruber. Nitty says, Trump needs a building permit for that hairstyle. Well, that's for sure. I mean, but poor, Donald Trump is can't can't believe he accepted the job. I mean, guess he's such a nihilist. It's like he couldn't help himself. But he really didn't realize how he was going to get played, you know? It's like Lincoln. Lincoln, you know, has been, you know, he sits in that big chair in that big mausoleum in D.C. And, you know, he was like the Donald Trump of his times, and he was not a nice guy, and he was manic depressant. He had a number of genetic disorders that really screwed his body up, put him in pain. He was always not feeling too good in his gut. Um, his wife was a harpy. His kids died, and he kind of he declared martial law. He threw all of the newspapermen in jail. Anyone who disagreed with him, he hung them and shot them, and he shelled Manhattan when the Irish rebelled against the draft, and they killed a quarter million. His by his order, they killed a quarter million people in New York City in one night. You know, the Civil War was the first heavily industrialized war, right? All those, instead of people hitting each other over the head with clubs and, having muskets that they had, they had bullets that they just had to put in the gun and bang. And basically, the war was caused by the hidden hand, the bankers from Europe, because they wanted to rearrange America. And they knew the mud flood was going to happen. And, it happened, before the Civil War. And it wiped out the Indians to the point that, and it changed the geography of the Mississippi and the Midwest. So would become the new Rust Belt instead of Massachusetts. And steam was coming online and coal. And that's what the Civil War was about. It wasn't about slavery. The North had their own slaves. They were called Irish immigrants, and they used them like a cog in a machine, where at least in the South, the black folk were part of the family, The master was getting jiggy with all the girls. And, they were part of, yes, they got sold and treated bad, but the black folk outnumbered the white folks, so the crazy slave owners couldn't get too nuts because then the black folk would rebel. The problem is the government and media pits us against one another. Yep, but we allow that to go. Everyone turned off their media and didn't watch it. It'd be, if they were way more discriminating. It's not to be, discrimination. What the problem is that people are prejudiced, meaning they have an idea and they think that's truth. No, that's an opinion, where if you're discriminating, what you're doing is you're choosing to do something for yourself, not for the masses, right? I don't like chocolate cake. Oh, I like chocolate cake. Oh, I don't like. That's being discriminating. By choice, not discriminating against someone. And whenever you force your opinion on someone else, well, that's not right. When you have an opinion, that's fine. Everyone has an opinion, like they have an asshole. It's okay. Hate is the enemy, and hate is manifested by artificial forces. Right, human beings are when I have to fill out a lot of forms for my health care and the this and the that, and whenever it says race, I put in human, and they get very upset when I do that. We must respect one another. That's like one of the keys. And we should not allow ourselves to be used as a cog, Detachment. It's a life science. Yep. Unity in the face of adversity. Yep. Seeing all as very self. All our relations. Love pure and simple. How I long to be there. Yep. And ink, we're there in every day in every way when we take the peace of the earth and make it stronger through love's co-creation. And love produces the joy which creates peace that manifests patience, outwardly emitting kindness, which is the goodness and faithfulness that is your gentleness, being self-controlled and conscious of your free will's responsibility to do all the above. Thank you, Ride. Love's co-creation is key as key is it not. It feels good to do good. The charity of forgiveness is key, along with forgetting the limited self according to Meher Baba. Yep. The teachings of Meher Baba, you know, again, he's an avatar, Jesus, or Jesus, as my friend would say, Buddha, Vishnu, they're all avatars. They all live by example. That's why they're still around. They haven't gone anywhere, Ink, you leaving us? Night all. Sláinte. Thanks for dropping by. So, it's 31 and 49. So, I think a good place to go in state is back to Shambhala, where all of our ascended masters and teachers are kind of hanging out, right? And I would like it, as we go there, as we cleanse ourselves, as we bring the prana into our bodies and bring forth the photonic light in our imaginary mirror. Right now, as I'm saying, get yourself comfy, put yourself in a good place. I'm going to go turn the shadow light down. So everyone's in a comfortable sitting or lying or safe position as you quiet your conscious mind, see it clearly, let go of all the anxieties of the day, and you breathe in. Fill those lungs up. Expand them. Lift your diaphragm to expand your lungs so more prana can get into your lungs. And you breathe out at 30%. Expelling all the toxins of your body. You expel more toxins through your breath than any other elimination system. See it clearly. And one, your little squirrel in the cage of your Rolodex mind is like starting to go to sleep. Your body, your avatar, your bag of water, your mud puppet is just going on remote control. And as your lungs get filled with that prana, the blood is being pumped through, and the current is created because your blood is swirling through your veins and arteries and capillaries, and there's one swirl clockwise going against the walls of your veins and arteries and capillaries, and inside that swirl there's another swirl going counterclockwise, and inside of that one there's one going clockwise, and that's creating polyphase alternating current. See it clearly. And that prana is flowing through every cell of your body. The mitochondria is being electrified, and you're having this coursing current that goes from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, and you're grounding it out into Mother Earth. And you're breathing in the prana from Father Sky. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, ever shall be, world without amen. As it was in the beginning. And every day, in every way, you take the piece of the earth and you make it stronger with love's co-creation. And Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, blessed is the fruit of thy womb. Jesus, Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now in the hour of our death. Amen. And you are now a glowing sphere of photonic light, and you illuminate your imaginary mirror right behind your eyelids where you have dream time, and you take that light and you shine it into your subconscious mind, which is not the scary place, not the house of monsters. It is the library of your Akashic record, which is the record of your soul's total existence from its conception as a dutiful creation of love's co-creation. Your consciousness's free will. See it clearly. See it illuminated, and a illumination of photonic light and love. And photonic light has no shadows, has no lies, has no deception. Not like the Luciferian kind of shadow light, the fog, the mist. And we go into our library, and in front of us is the fireplace of the eternal flame, and right next to it are these beautiful, nice leather comfy chairs, and in front of that is your reading table, and in front of that is your reading chair. And to the left is your librarian, your animal totem, and your guardian angel. And to your right are the doorways. One of the doorways is open, and the rest all have closed and locked doors. An open door goes to your superconscious mind, the sanctuary of your own choosing, where love's co-creation is there to be with you. So see it clearly. And you sit down at your reading table, and your librarian brings your Akashic record, and you open it up, and you take your right hand, you put it on the right page. You take your left hand, put it on the left page. You lean into your Akashic record, and you eliminate, you evacuate all of the anger, all of the fear, all the anxiety, all the self-doubt, all the fear, all the negative thoughts of the day, and all of what you can remember. You let go all of that negative energy, and you put it in your Akashic record and close the book. Boom, no longer inside you. But when you go back into your Akashic record, you look at that, and you'll see the simple truth of what it is. Right? There's nothing big deal about it. There's no monsters. There's no fear. There's actually no reason for it to be there. Just what we've chatted about amongst all of the chorus that is here tonight is true. You know, see all those things that you've said. That's why it's really great that these YouTubes are on my channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, and you can go back and see them again. And because they are framed with shamanic energy and love, and the tools of the psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemy, you can get everything you get out of the live chat when you watch it again. And I've got more than 400 of these shows up on this channel. And I've gone back and looked at them, and most of them are pretty good. You know, they need to be looked at some more. You know? And if you look at them a second, third time, they will go deeper into you. So when you go look at your Akashic record, you will see in a perspective deeper than just the show itself, um, the dynamic. And why I do, a guided meditation every night is because I'm here to, as your sensei Al Bob, to assist, to be that guiding light of living my life, an example. Not that you follow it, but it gives you an example. That's what it is. It's an example. You know, you don't need to follow my path, but it's an example. Like, let me think about that, right? And it's right there, accessible like you can't believe. And I'd love it if you, at your leisure, um, go through the things, and whatever show that you really like, you download on your hard drive, put it on a thumb drive, put it on a CD-ROM. The more this gets out all over the place, the better. And not just coming to this channel. Yes, more people need to come. We have to enlarge the cadre. This is true. We have to, go into all our relations, right? And as the spring comes, um, and as the spring is wherever you are, wherever you have the opportunity to every day in every way take the piece of the earth, and whatever, that's why I tell you these stories, all these endeavors, is that I am no great, and I'm just your average dude, that's kind of awake, that I've been blessed with the opportunity to be exposed to some great people who have had the kindness to be patient with me, to help me become the best I can be, and be of service to love's co-creation. And that's what I'm here to do. That's what I was born here. That's, if you go read my one novel at xratted.blogspot.com, and there's 6 cuts, right? And they all have, um, a unifying theme, but they're all different in that they are shamanically and harmonically um, put down to when you read them, and you might have to read them a few times, but that's why they're relatively short. You pick up that energy, and that will give you somewhat of a path, right? It'll give you guideposts. Those stories are guideposts. They are keys to the hidden path that you need to take, to open up the hidden treasure of who you are. That's what I'm here to help you do. Open up the hidden treasure of who you are. And so, you're light as a feather, and we're going to go in through that open door of your superconscious mind and your sanctuary of your own choosing, and you're walking up and your hands on the railing, up the steps, over the bridge of your id. You're at the top, and you're looking out over your sanctuary, and you're overstanding. Right at this moment, I want you to overstand the picture that's underneath you, because everything, all of your who you are, what you need, all the hidden mysteries of your path of your life. But right down, you can just look at them right now. Look at from the top of the bridge. You look down, right? And we are going to walk off, and your guides are with you. Your librarian, your animal totem, and your guardian angel are with you. And you walk down, and you go over to the meadow. That's right. And the gazebo's in front of you, and you sit down on your picnic blanket, and you If you want a little nosh, there, the picnic basket, the cornucopia, the abundance of your life is right there in that basket. Everything you need, right there in that basket. There is no, you know, need. There is no lack. You have everything you have because you are surrounded by love's co-creation. And then you go a little further east of your picnic blanket where the a tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You don't eat the fruit, that's pretty toxic. But down in the roots, that's where you go. And each of those roots will take you someplace deep. And each root has a little sliver in it. And you've already been, you see the root for Shambhala, and you go down it towards the light. You go into Shambhala, and I want you, there is a circle of masters. There's Jesus, there's Vishnu, there's Buddha, there's Meher Baba, and every other master is there, right? Saint Germain, right? Not all are avatars of the highest high, you know, but they're all shaman, and they're all where truth. Truth is right in front of you, and let truth lead you, right? Right now, you're being told, what's truth? Truth doesn't exist. What? No. But you feel in your heart, that's truth, right? Not what you think in your head, but what you feel in your heart, what your gut tells you, right? And I've talked to many people of many opinions. And when I get them to think with their heart, right, to understand with their gut, that's when they start to, and to not feel with their head, but feel with their Akashic record, where there's true truth. And that means you got to breathe. All you have to do is, I can get anyone to go into state by just having them breathe 3 or 4 times, 20% in and 30% out. Many of you who connect to me today, I spent a good portion of today going through all of my Gmail and responding to everyone. I did my best. And again, like I said, anyone wants to talk to me and they're in America, give me your phone number and I'll give you a buzz. I gave a jangle to a bunch of folk. And anyone who wants to help me to figure out how to get back my WhatsApp so I can talk to people in foreign lands, I'm all for that. John has generously given me a very nice little laptop, a recycled laptop, for my birthday. And we're inching towards Bethlehem here. And as spring comes, I'm going to become more active. I'm going to, get around and go to people's towns. And you need to start creating, whatever vehicle you want. An art gallery, a coffee shop, a book club, potluck dinners, whatever you want. But you need to build your communities around you. And start doing what we're talking about, in every day and every way. Start going out and feeding the homeless, Start, looking in your town and what, is, there's this lady there are a lot of folks on the YouTube who are like, just like a junkyard dog with a bone. There's this woman who runs this thing called stopthecrime.net, and she's in California, and, all of those fires were space-based, microwave weapons, And there are these, investment companies that are basically buying towns. I mean, the municipalities, they've suffered so many catastrophes, they can't even, have the fire department. So these guys go in there and buy them, and they buy the revenue from the taxes, and they start generating other taxes, like they're starting to charge people for the air they breathe, the water. They're like closing off their water and saying you can't collect it from your roof, and you can't have a well, and you have to get it from our bottled water at $1 a bottle. This is happening. This has already happened in China and India, and it's the same hidden hand. And the only thing that will stop it is us, the cadre, individually in all our little towns, um, you know, getting folks their own cadre in their little town, and like I said, starting things up. And that's what I've been doing wherever I go, right? And I don't take it upon myself to be the hero or Mr. Fix It. I mean, if I have to, I will. If there's nobody there else to do it and the need is there, I'll go do that. I've done it, right? I did it, done it, got the t-shirt. But it's much better if I can help other people step up so they can have the experience themselves, you know? And that's what it's about. And that's what community is about. Add away, buddy, your own soup kitchen, right? Stone soup. Right. Failure is a good thing. Mistakes are great. You learn from them. You don't get down on it. You don't get it down on yourself. You get down on doing it. Hey there, research. Good to see you, buddy. Yep, we're having a nice chat here, and we're going into state, and we're sitting in the circle in Shambhala of all the ascended masters. Hey there, Jane. So we've had a really good chat. You could thumb back into the rest of Chat Inc. and everyone else had some great concepts. I was talking about this dream I had about this morning. A conscious, vivid dream, and if you go back and look at my morning's chat, I just because I was kind of still in that dream. Okay, I did. Is that the one? Research, was that the one when you were in front of the beach? Research, was that I was watching when you had earlier today? Was that you were in front of a beach and the sun was out? Was that it? Yep, you did it on the beach. Yep, it was a good one. Yep, yep. And that's what we all have to do in our own little communities is start doing events like that. Now, I used to do something similar when I was on the west coast of Florida and near Tampa, and we would, just have a potluck dinner drum circle on the beach, and we would get, once it got started, hundreds of people would show up, and it was quite amazing. And then the different people who came from different towns through Florida started doing it in their own little towns, and it really was quite amazing to do that. So just a little effort to reach out past the YouTube and get people to be there. I mean, even if you're just walking, hey, come on down. If you have a drum in your hand, a drum is the most empowering instrument because anyone can play it, and anything can be a drum. You can have a plastic bottle with a stick, and it makes some pretty good tunes. So that's what we need to do to to step forth in our own communities and empower our all our relations around us, and not view anyone as the other, but as our brother and our sister and all our relations. And you had a little moment. Those moments are what make our lives amazing. Call them the ancestors, aho. And that's what we have to do more. I mean, every day we need to step up and in every day in every way take the piece of the earth and make it stronger through these actions. And these actions may seem to be, I mean, they're very powerful. And the more we do it, the stronger they become. Yep. All you have to do is feel it in your heart, and it's shamanic. You know, don't feel self-confident. Feel the self-awareness, the self-empowerment of love's co-creation. And every day in every way, make it stronger. And everyone you talk to, talk with love and patience. You know, it's real easy to be impatient. I'm an impatient guy. So that's my challenge. And so that's why I double down on being patient, empathetic, and considerate. Because it makes everything work. When I'm impatient, that's when I, get speeding tickets and run into things. No. Oh. And so instead of trying to fight the powers that shouldn't be and the hidden hand, we have to extend our understanding. We have to, they are not near us. They don't, hang out, but we can shamanically affect them. And that's why I keep bringing you into these places. Like here we are sitting in the circle with all these ascended masters. And it's now 57:57, so I'm going to be quiet for the moment, and I want you to talk to Jesus and Buddha and Vishnu and all the other ascended masters, Mayor Baba, Saint Germain. See them clearly. And I'm going to be quiet. Oh. And that's what we have to do, Jane. We have to displace our complacency in every day and every way. And it can be done with such little effort. It's no big deal to serve love's co-creation, you know? You can still have that piece of chocolate cake. You can still have your latte, you know? But not as many. And you can slow down and talk to that person who needs to be listened to. How you doing? How's it going? And then you listen. That's why we have two ears and only one mouth. That's why I kind of go out, you know? I don't stay in. Because I have chores to do, but I more or less go see people. And I listen to them. And one reason why I kind of dress like a homeless guy is because I go and walk amongst the homeless people and listen to them. Because all the institutions who that are there to allegedly take care of them don't. They're there for themselves to get grant money and to pay the bloated salaries of the executive boards of these entities, you know. But we don't have to get paid. We can just talk to folk. We can help them out. And I have a friend who does a very nice thing. He every day makes about 10 sandwiches of whatever he's got, bologna or cheese or, you know, uh, you know, peanut butter and jelly. And he goes through his day. And when he sees a homeless person, he just takes, it's in a bag, nice and sealed. And he says, "Here, have a sandwich," and walks on. He also has, he puts me, I do the same thing. Whatever change I have, I put it in my right pocket. So if I need some spare change to pay off, whatever I'm buying, I got it. But mostly it's there to easily hand. I don't have to get on my wallet or anything. And I got a few dollars in there. I got a 5 in there. And I got a handful of quarters and nickels and dimes. And I just stick my hand in there and hand it to the person. And the guy, I'm driving, there's so many people on the corners in Roanoke on the major thoroughfares at the lights that spare change. And, a lot of people curse them and spit at them, and I always got a pocket full of change. And these are little things we can do that can help. And we can do bigger things. We can go to all the churches around us, say, "So what are you doing for the poor? What are you doing for the old folks? What are you doing for the young folks? Do you have a place where young kids can come from school so they don't have to be, you know challenged by bullies and drug dealers and get into trouble, because most churches don't do that. Do you have a place, where the old folk, who need some company can come? Most churches don't do. They used to, but they don't anymore. And I go to those churches, and I mean, all those churches know me. I've worked for them. I've helped them write grants. I've helped them put together programs and things of that nature. But so they expect me to do it for nothing, which I do. But then I expect them to run it once I set it up for them, and they don't. And they don't. And why don't they? Because they actually don't have the empathy for their brothers and sisters. They don't even have the empathy for the people who come to their church. And so if you live in a community that has churches and organizations like this, go to them and say, hey, how can I help? What can I do? Ahead. Start a book club, do a potluck dinner where people come together and play music and dance and have a good time and talk about helping your own community. Look around, see what, this isn't right. And, get involved. And that will give you experience and confidence to go off and do this stuff. And that's what needs to be done. That is part of the alternative aesthetic I'm talking about. Like Jane said, deal with your complacency. Displace your complacency. The same thing with your friends and your family. There are friends you have and family that you have that need someone to be able to talk to, and be there for, Oh, there are way more people than 600,000 who are homeless in the U.S., Jane. There are millions who are homeless. And whatever number, wherever you got that number, is just somebody's, we got to, put a number on it. I mean, there's probably that many homeless veterans who have served in Afghanistan and Iraq in the last. We've been at war in Afghanistan almost 20 years. And companies like Boeing and TRW and Lockheed have made trillions of dollars. Yep. You just got to be there and do what you can do, That's all you can do. Do what you can do, but do that. And get your friends to do what they can do and do that. Of course they underestimate. Like I said, there are millions. I mean, there's over 15,000 people who are homeless in Roanoke alone. And there's a thing called, Habitat for Humanity. There's the mission. There is Homeless Action Team. There's LEAP that's supposed to feed the homeless. And they don't do any of it. There's a thing called, Straight Streets for Teenage Kids. They have $40 million worth of assets, and they don't help any kids. Not at all. Salvation Army is the only one doing any real stuff, and they got a really limited budget, but they do more for the limited amount of money they got than pretty much all the other entities put together. And the police actually do a lot of good because they have to deal with the homeless every day. So that's kind of why I stayed in Roanoke for so long, is that it was the microcosm of America. I could, as a demographer, a social scientist, I could see what was going on across America by just this little town. And this town was a humming city of enterprise from around 1870 to 1970. It was the center of transportation. Had a gigantic airport, big, one of the largest railroad yards on the East Coast, I-81, and 260, uh, 460, 220, 221 had lots of roads for transportation and manufacturing, and they've turned it into a hospital tourist site, and both make no money for anybody. You know, there are a lot of things, and I've written a number of developmental plan that were based on making the average citizen a wage of $40 an hour, and they didn't want to do that because they just wanted to make a high-end wage for rich people. Everybody else gets their $8 an hour Burger King job. And this is the kind of stuff we have to start intervening with, going and talking to, going and going and talk to that Burger King manager, and getting everyone on the page of all our relations, And, my little ideas of, I'm a strategist. So, yeah, first off, everyone in the cadre needs, in their own little neighborhood, have to do this because that gives you the training, the confidence to go up and do bigger things, And that's why I want to start the Humanities Artist Trust, because all the funding for all of these other things are going to go bye-bye. The tax laws have totally changed. And one of the things you can, easily fund and take off on your taxes is the arts now, right? Because, having your church help poor people, well, that's called an entitlement. The fact that, the corporations are getting trillions in tax breaks, and they don't call that an entitlement, The fact that the military-industrial complex, spends about, $6 trillion on the books and about $40 trillion off the books every year. That's why our economy is totally hollowed out. Before Donnie, he was whining about Obama's, $19 trillion deficit. And Georgie Boy was whining about Bill Clinton's $4 trillion deficit. And Obama's deficit didn't make it. It was Georgie and Dick's wars in the Mideast that exploded our deficit. They ran 2 wars for 20 years on a credit card. And these are things that we have to talk to our neighbors about. Have to make them understand that you didn't lose your job because some Mexican took it. No, sorry, it's because it was shipped out to some factory in Taiwan, or in Thailand or Vietnam or China and South Korea. But as those countries, like Japan was the cheap man on the block, and now those people, they have free healthcare, free school, and assisted food and housing. Every Japanese citizen has that, and a pretty good salary. They get taxed, But when I lived in Sweden, that's how it was. A bottle of wine was like $35. A bottle of crappy wine was that. A bottle of beer was $18. A pack of cigarettes was $18. But they had free healthcare, free education. So and they're and those countries were growing older. They weren't replacing. So they brought in, all of these folks who came in from North Africa, from Syria, from Iraq, from Afghanistan, And so they're doing all the jobs those folks wouldn't do. Yeah, Sepika. Have any of you read Mishima? He was a Japanese fascist poet, but his poetry was his writings were pretty amazing. He tried to, have a putsch and overthrow the government, the liberal democratic government in Japan. He tried to bring back militarism. And he was just a little too early for it. I mean, he probably would swing now. But he did that, and they stopped him, and they arrested his cadre, and everyone was kind of not put in jail, but slapped on the wrist, and he went on a talk show and pulled out his sword and committed ceremonial seppuku, which is suicide, the Harry Carry. And how you do it is you have this like sword that's maybe 2.5 feet long, very sharp, and you stick it in your gut and you cross across your stomach and then up across your intestines and you pull your intestines out. And how many feet of intestines you pull out is the mark of what a groovy dude you are. And he did that on live, like on the Merv Griffin show, in Japan, their version of it. He did it on an afternoon TV show live, and he did it, and they didn't like cut to commercial, and that's Japan. I mean, Japan is a great. You should go visit that place, but you have to prepare, because if you go there with understanding their cultural dynamics, and you're respectful to it, they'll love your ass. They really will. It's quite an extraordinary, because they are really the most xenophobic people you ever want to meet. And they're like, when I went there, I'm not the tallest guy, but I was still about a foot and a half taller than anybody. I like my head stuck out above the crowd, but I kind of did my homework and understand their aesthetic base. And when I talk to people, I learned a number of Japanese terms to start a conversation, and was respectful and listened. Didn't talk a lot. I listened, and loved that. You know. And when I would be on mass transit, which is mostly what I did, I didn't go to places. I just moved amongst the folk, and and people would want to practice their English on me, and I would just listen, and I would want them to tell me about who they were, what they did, what, and I said, so what aesthetically do you do? And that was like, because that's what they lived to do, to paint, to draw, to do poetry, to, bonsai, to garden, and so I would just, right, and I kind of did my little homework on the different aesthetic motifs, and I would throw in a few concepts and let them go off on it. And it was amazing. And I've told you that story when I was in Egypt, in the Valley of the Kings, and I was in this market, and I bought myself a burqa because I thought it was the greatest spacesuit because it was a stinky rat, just bugs everywhere and dust and hot. And I threw the burqa on. It was like a spacesuit. It was 20 degrees cooler in there and had a little screen over my face so the bugs couldn't get in, dust couldn't get in. And I was I was there to do a certain thing, but everybody else, my little thing was I looked at stuff in the evening. And during the day, I had, my own devices. And so I was going to, every time a call to prayer, I would go to the mosque and pray. And they have a door for guys, door for girls. And now I was a total puddinhead and didn't realize this great spacesuit I was wearing was a burqa for women. So I went through the door for the men, and this guy screamed at me and told me, bitch, get me, he was like, and I said, well, who's that? What are you talking about? And he said, who's in there? And I took it off, and he started laughing hysterically. I said, what's so funny? He goes, that's a burqa. I said, well, it's great. It's like a spacesuit. He goes, no, you don't understand. I said, it's for women. I said, only women get this great? What, the guys have to suffer? He goes, no, guys have their own. I said, it can't be like this. I mean, this is a full body armor. He goes, this is true. The guys thing isn't quite as amazing as that. I said, so you got a burqa too? He goes, well, I try my wives on every now and then. Anyway, so I had this great, amazing conversation with this guy. He says, well, you can't walk through take that off, put it in the shelf, and let's go to prayer. So I did, prayed. And he came out and he said, listen, I own this coffee shop. It's all men. And I'd love it if you walked in that with a burqa. We could like redo the same comic relief that we just did here. I said, hey, I'm up for it. So I went in there and did it, and all the men started screaming at me. And then he came over in a blustery thing, and he pulled the burqa off, and there I was, right? And he said, "This is my friend. Isn't he funny?" And they all laughed, and they slapped me on the back. And again, I used the little marginal language that I knew of theirs and listened to everything. And they all tried their English out on me, and again, I was wanted to know about their life, what they did, what I understood their religion, and I discussed it, and not from a confrontational way, but who is your most favorite poet? What do you think of Muhammad's grandchildren? Because those two, his granddaughter and grandson, are like amazing. The poetry written about those two are like whoa. And because they stood up against the guy, there's the Sikhs and not the Sikhs. There's two versions of Islam, and they're kind of confrontational towards each other. Anyway, so everywhere I go, I try to do my homework on their culture and be very respectful and want to know about it and what they do. I don't want to tell them anything unless I'm asked a question, and then I'm happy to talk. And then when they ask me about certain things within the context of Americanism, and I come from my point of view, they go, "You can't be an American." No. What planet are you from? And I like it. Let's go there. And that's, you nice to people, people are nice to you. So in your community, you step out. I'm like, I've been here 20 years. I basically know everyone from every different, there's this, we don't have to import our Nazis or Ku Klux Klan. They're here in large numbers. And I go into their neighborhoods where their coffee shops are and have breakfast there and talk to them. And I'm respectful and nice to them. And we have really interesting conversations to the point where I leave them going, I'll have to think about that. I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to have to think, And I talk to, uber conservatives, uber liberal, you name it, I can talk to anybody because I'm schooled. I'm a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist. That's what I do. I turn everyone's lead into gold. And that's what I'm trying to teach you, my cadre, how to go off and do this. Okay. Well, I don't think we have to you know, eminal, we don't have to set ourselves on fire, no. It's much better to laugh and have a good time. My favorite Buddhist monks are the one who like to dance and kid around. So here's a great Buddhist monk story. So, I'm living in Nashville for about 10 years. And the last few years, it's getting really hipster. Not quite, it wasn't even a tenth of how hipster it is now. But, so I had this girlfriend who was a shrink. And she was into every fad, every new age, everything, right? And so they got this buddy of mine, Howard Hanger, was a really interesting minister, and he got the Buddhist monks to come and visit. And they loved Howard because he was a party animal, and they would do their sand paintings in the museum and blow their big horns and do all that kind of stuff, right? And so she had these guys stay at her house, and she didn't trust them, right? Like she said, they're going to steal stuff. I said, they're Buddhist monks. If they do, so what? It's like putting money on the plate. Anyway, so she wanted me to stay there with them to, watch over them. But she wanted them in her house so she could go, ooh, I had the Buddhist monks in my house. Right? So, anyway, I, had, okay, guys, what do you want? We were hanging out, we're playing cards, they were drinking, smoking cigarettes. Anyway, so this one day I said, so, let's you're not doing any sand paintings or blowing your big horns. What do you want to do? And so, let's. And they kind of looked sheepishly and said, can we go to McDonald's? And I said, sure, let's go to McDonald's. Right? So we kind of strolled down to McDonald's. And these guys got like 20 Big Macs apiece, right? Buddhist monks who are, people think they're they're vegan, right? And all these people are in, Asheville are, oh, they're so holy. This and these guys are like slopping them in, and the secret sauce is all over their orange robes. And a friend of mine is a newspaper photographer there at the Asheville Citizen Times, and he's like getting his cheeseburger, and I'm sitting with all these monks, and he goes, "Oh, who are they?" I said, "These are my friends. These are the monks." So he pulls out his camera and he starts shooting away. And the next day on the front page is there's me surrounded by all these monks, and everyone's got, the secret sauce all over their face and ketchup all in their chest, and these guys are just, and there's like, and they were eating more cheeseburgers than Donald Trump. And, ooh, ooh. And so, I mean, everyone has preconceived notions about everyone, and we don't have to. We can live moment to moment with people in love's co-creation. And that's why these guys, the monks, like me, because they were pretty harsh on everybody. They gave everyone a hard time. And the other interesting thing, their minder was a CIA agent. These guys were, the Buddhist monks. Look what they did they wiped out a lot of Rohingya Muslims. And that's what we have to do. We have to kind of live by example and kind of put forth to people and question their belief structures. Not question them in a confrontational way, but so what do you think of this? Right? And so when people ask you about your opinion, you don't do it confrontationally. You bring forth questions. What do you think of this? Not like, I believe in this and I'm right and you're wrong. You suck. No. So, aloha. Hey there, Miss Sarah, Jane, Fish, Buddy. Who else is here? Anybody new? Boo boo boo. Num 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 num. Chum chum chum. So that's what we need to do is to question people's orthodoxy, but not confront it, right? And question it by humor. That's I have all these little shamanic tricks. My doing cold readings of people is one of my little hooks. I see somebody who's either suffering or mean or confrontational or being a bully, and I just kind of step in and instead of saying, "Stop that, you got a daughter," I go, "Hey, let me look at your palm." And it kind of breaks whatever, you know, stress or terrible thing someone's doing. They kind of go, huh? And 99.9% of everyone will put their palm up like this, and I go, and I'll give them a cold reading, right? And they'll go, which takes them totally sideways. And then I can start listening to them and then talking to them, not confronting them, but questioning. So why'd you do that? So why'd you pick on that person? What were you feeling when this happened? What was going on in your mind when that was going on? What did you think of when you saw that? We ask people questions like that. So look at that homeless guy over there. Let's go over and talk to him. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, sure we can. Oh, but they could do. I said, no, they won't. And you break people into realizing that everyone's a human being. Everyone needs to be loved. Everyone needs empathy. And so do they. They need love and empathy too. That's the way we're going to pop the bubble of this, control-oriented orthodoxy. Because every religion is a business plan. All those Ten Commandments are about how to, thou shalt not do this, how to, why are all the monks screwing everybody sideways, but the Ten Commandments says, don't covet your neighbor's, It's like all about control, Only worship me. I'm the one true God, So anyway, oh, look at that. 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 4 seconds. So I'm starting to get a little tired. And this week I have things to do. I'll keep um, doing my chats because that's one of my little, not chores, but joys of my everyday. But I might miss a morning, and I might not do a 4 hour evening one. But each of these have been quite right. And the earlier, this whole chat was very good, right? And I think I'm getting my the concept of the alternative aesthetic is kind of seeping in, and you guys are thinking about it, and because I can tell by the chat that you're seeing what it's about, and going off and doing something. You don't have to having no expectation is the key to success because I have three rules. Doctor, do no harm. Do not get involved unless you can bring forth a positive outcome, and do not, and protect the innocent and get them out of harm's way. And don't get involved unless I can learn something from it. So if I fail or it doesn't come out like I think it should or how I was planning, well, I learned something, right? And usually, even if something fails, you have accomplished something positive, and that you moved into trying to do something. Trying to manifest something. And the more you do that, the more things are going to happen. Yeah, without expectations, you're not disappointed. You know? And I'm never disappointed about anything because I'm just happy that I'm here and every little inch I move forward is fine. And when things say, oh, like getting that speeding ticket, that has been, something that has occupied me for now a month and a half because I have to save money to pay whatever I'm going to have to pay. And I have to go, I've had to already go see the court a couple times and I still haven't gone to see the judge. And then I'll probably have to, take driving, there's all these kind of consequences. So, it'll keep me in my head not to speed. But through all of these things, I've had conversations with people. I've made people happy, policemen and judges and, bureaucrats. I have met all these people that I would have never met unless I got that speeding ticket, right? And the big lesson was, my higher selves, had me go past the habitual place where I always turned. And if I just said, oh, well, I'm just keep going, I wouldn't have gotten the ticket. But I turned around and went down my habitual way, meaning it was a lesson of stop being so habitual, you moron. Okay, I'm listening. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. And so that's why this dream, and I didn't hear voices like right now. When I'm thinking I am awake, but when I was asleep, and knowing that I was awake and asleep, I had a conscious dream. In my conscious dream, I had and heard voices that gave me some very interesting information. So I'm awake to this. And part of that kind of came from getting that speeding ticket. I'm a lot more awake after getting that speeding ticket, right? So we have to be awake to all the opportunities and advantages, even in something that looks like a defeat or an obstacle, right? So that is the motif, and so here we are. So I would say, because time, what I love about these chats, I look at the time and it's like I thought I've been talking for 20 minutes. It's only been 2 minutes, right? I look away and then it's an hour and a half, right? So around 1 hour, 40 minutes and 40 seconds, I will say good night. But until then, you guys, so uh, let's hear from the six of you of just dudes, num num, chomp chomp, and you're never disappointed. That's right, Sarah. So, um, go back and watch. to watch, but it's her next life. Oh, okay. Again, all of these chats are pretty amazing. And so I would love it if you guys were to download whatever one you really, wow, this is a great one, and put it on your hard drive, and then look at it and then use it in some way. You create something else. We had a few chats back, maybe a week or two. We were discussing an artist, a Dutch artist, and her Klemp, I think, is her last name, and she was in the 20s, and she did this amazing art, and and she didn't show it until after she died. Um, Enjoy the sun, buddy. I love you. Anyway, her name is the part of the cadre who was part of that chat, and her name is Laura, and she works either in Virginia, or she goes to school in Virginia or North Carolina, and anyway, she's an artist, and so she went and looked up that art and was like, "Whoa!" And then, in her art class, they told her that all the students had to pick one artist, and she picked this one and started doing paintings that were kind of, you know, amazed by what she saw, and she did. She sent me on my Gmail account a bunch of her paintings, and so our chat inspired her to look this lady up and then get inspired by what she saw, and it's changed her life. She went up and bought her books, and it's just like her whole aesthetic way of looking at it. She's a pretty good artist to begin with, but this has put a whole new way of doing things, and that's the alternative aesthetic. And a number of you have, Gmailed me or put on the chat, I'm not an artist. And no, like last night, there's a guy named Mute, and he went to school and got a degree being a computer graphic guy, and he's working as a laborer of sorts, right? And I said, start your own magazine. You've got the skills. Use them, practice them. The more you do it, the better you'll get. And another person said, "Oh, I'm not an artist, but I like to bake." Well, you are a baker artist. Everything, brushing your teeth is an art. And so, when I was an electrician, why I was so successful. I was an artist electrician. People would look at the pipes I bent and the way I did things. Wow, that is so beautiful. Ivan Karp, who I wired OK Harris, he wanted me to put, just bend some of that pipe and put it on a piece of plywood. I'll sell it. Okay, I'll do that, and he did. But I didn't want a product. You know, and so I would do little projects and he would sell them and, he'd give me a couple grand. Hey, took me a couple hours to do that. Not a problem. And I did, that's why I kind of became a performance artist. Anyway, everybody's an artist, right? Because that is what life is about. You know, our lives are art, are the art. So, ask the ATTED. Let's talk about that because there are a lot of little clues to write. And to understand it, you're going to have to read it a few times. So just pick one and read it. And then you go, wow, I got to read the next one. And each one has a story that is, from my perspective, you will get to know your sensei Al Bob a lot better by reading those stories. And buried within them is shamanic keys to the mysteries. And then we can talk about, again, this is I am a sensei, your teacher. This is a class of sorts, you know. Thanks, Nitty. Well, Pisces, the fish, very empathetic. We get to choose. We don't have to be abused by the what's coming down the pike. We get to choose. We get to navigate. We got the rudder in our hand. So, what do you want to see for Pisces? Love the water. Yep, it's right next to us Aquarians, who are the water carriers. And when you are pouring water out of a jug, what is that? You are exfoliating truth. Falling water, pouring water is truth. It's the metaphor for truth, right? And what did I write here? I wrote a bunch of stuff here. Logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end. Truth points to itself, and empathy is the crossroads of truth and logic. Okay? It's hard to read my writing in the dark. I can barely read it in the light. When I used to write my journals, my mother was the only one who could read them. I couldn't even read my own journals. So she was so sweet. She would read them, and the ones she liked best, she would type. She was a really good typist, and she would type it up for me. And the only one she liked, though. And she was not a frustrated teacher, but she was a person who would have liked to, because she loved to. She was a triple Capricorn. She loved to control. So, that's she was the one who really made me a stickler about using the correct word, the right word. She was really into etymology, so that's where I got it from. My mom. And we used to read together. I'd get a good, interesting book, and we'd read it out loud to each other. I would read most of it, and then she would read chunks because she could read. As I'm reading it out loud, I'm moving slower. She also taught me the Evelyn Wood speed reading technique, and then when I was in sixth grade, they taught it to us then too. And so, yeah, my mom, she could have made a great teacher, but she was much better, goddess. So see, here it is, 1:43:15. So anyway, it's up to us what we want to do with the month of March. So, yep. I love that water. Yeah, I'm a big water fan myself. I can live underwater. I can breathe underwater. At least it seems so. I got pretty good lungs. Okay. Oh, well, there it is. 1:43:43. So I'm going to say goodnight, gang, and I'll see you in the morning, somewhere around 10-ish or before noon, that's for sure. So I love you. Yeah, nighty night, night, fish, and anyone who wants to come join, I'll be asleep, and you can come visit me in dream time. Sleep deeply. I always do. I never have a problem sleeping. Sarah, I love you guys. Fish. Let's see. Jane. Who else? Buddy, already went up to hang in the sun. Okay, 1 hour, 44 minutes, and 31 seconds. So at 44 seconds, I will say goodnight. I love you guys. Another great evening, another great chat. Go look at this stuff. Start finding your favorites. Start co-creating.